Where do we find water? I'm thirsty. I need to know how to take care of my family. What do we do? Do we panic? Am I safe? What do I do? Where do I go? What do we do? Hey, it's Clint Garrett, FiresidePrep.com. What are the first steps you need to take to get access to fresh water if the power goes out and everything starts to hit the fan? Okay, so we're going to make a really short video here talking about the 4 immediate emergency sources of fresh water that you have access to more than likely, but you just haven't really thought about them. So if the power goes out and if everything starts to hit the fan, where do you find fresh water? If you haven't had time to prepare, or if you haven't prepared, where do you go and what do you do? Let's get to it. There are 4 sources, really 3 immediate on-hand sources for you to recognize and keep in mind if it all hits the fan and if the power goes out. The first and most immediate source, and that is if it hits the fan, the first thing you want to do is start to fill up every sink and bathtub in your house. Now, there are some bladders that fit inside bathtubs that will hold 60 to 70 gallons of water that you can actually use to create a semi-container to kind of protect that fresh water inside that tub. But the first step you want to take is to try to stop up and fill up every sink and bathtub that you have on hand, any buckets that you have on hand. Now, the second step that you want to take in mind is that if the water system becomes polluted and the freshwater pumps, especially if you live on city-provided water, or even if you live on well water, that fresh water might become polluted at some point. So the first step you want to do is fill up any bathtubs, buckets, containers that will safely hold fresh water for you to have that fresh water on hand. The second step you want to do is you want to go out to the main source of where your water is supplied and you want to turn that off so that any pollutants, any backfill that ends up in those systems cannot come back into your freshwater system inside your house, inside your apartment, wherever you happen to be living. And so after that valve is turned off, step 2 is there is a lot of fresh water sitting in the pipes inside the plumbing inside your home or apartment. So the easiest way to access that is to go to the lowest foundational point that you can find and either be ready to catch that fresh water in containers by some means, and either you have a valve access there at the lowest point in that house or that apartment. You have a valve that you can turn on and you can drain that plumbing out and catch it into containers, or you can cut one of the lines if you have to drain that water out to get it out of the plumbing lines that are sitting in your house. So again, you want to turn off the main source so that any back pollutants, any pollutants at all, do not end up inside the water lines in your house or apartment. And then you immediately want to go to the lowest place that you can find and try to get access to that water in those pipes to put it into containers for storage. So that's the second source. The third source is if you have a normal hot water heater, whether it's electric or gas propane water heater, most water heaters are between 40 to 60 gallons. And most of them stay full because they're constantly trying to heat that water to provide for you, unless you have an on-demand water heater, which is not going to work in this case. But if you have a normal water heater like most people have inside your home or inside your apartment, that is 40 to 60 gallons of fresh water that's already stored there. Most water heaters have a drainage valve at the bottom so that you can actually drain those into a bucket or containers for use. So you can drain that out and you've got 40 to 60 gallons stored right there. So that's not even including step number 2, which was all the pipes in your house. So that was step number 3, hot water heaters. And step number 4 is any freshwater sources that you may have around you in your local area. These could be ponds, these could be rivers, creeks, lakes, any freshwater sources you might have access to that are just kind of accessible to the general public. Keep those in mind. Now, you don't want to just go drink this water. You want to boil it, you want to filter it and boil it first, and that's for safety reasons. You don't want to just drink out of freshwater sources not knowing what kind of bacteria, because water in a freshwater source can contain a lot of bacteria. So you want to stay safe, but you want to be able to filter that water somehow, either through natural means or through filters. And again, we'll put links to some of those down below that you can actually use to filter that to make it potable as a safe drinking water source. So those are the 4 water sources. We're going to get into some other details, but we're going to talk a lot about water and food and clothing and shelter here in the beginning of this series of videos, because those are the most pertinent things that you need to keep in mind in any emergency. If an emergency happens along, if power goes out, if something happens, and you need to look out for you and your family, you need to keep these 4 things in mind: water, food, clothing, shelter. Again, we're going to go over those, and then we'll get into some other aspects of things as we go along. But for now, just keep in mind that those are the 4 readily available water sources you have inside your home that you may not have thought about. You may not be aware of those. So again, I'm Clint Garrett, FiresidePrep.com, and I will see you in the next video.